afternoon, everyone. Now that I have a wonderful mic that my wonderful husband helped me set up, this is to improve the sound quality of my vlogs, so my vlog is back in business. And I wasn't sure initially what I wanted to talk about today, but now, thanks to the most recent Doctor Who episode, I think I know. I want to discuss something that's always bothered me a little bit, and that is when recent, as in late 1980s, forward shows, science fiction shows that is, play the misogyny card. As if somehow of all the prejudices, of all the problems that we acknowledge that modern day society has, and if we project that into the future, then all those problems have been solved. They've all been dissolved. But evidently, I don't know why the writers won't leave this one alone, but apparently gender is the one, gender and gender roles, gender prejudice is the one thing we can't get past. So, I'm interested in the tendency of shows that in other respects are quite progressive playing this card. And there are two ways that they typically do it. First, you have the misogynistic race, a group of aliens whose culture, for whatever reason, has misogyny baked in. You have, for instance, on Doctor Who, you have the Sontarans. And considering that the Sontarans are a race of clones and there really aren't male or female, there aren't really gendered Sontarans. You know, they pretty much all look the same, sound the same. They're a race of clones, obviously. And yet, for some reason, the writers decided to have the Sontarans be contemptuous of women, or females, as they call them. And, of course, on Star Trek, starting with Star Trek The Next Generation, but really coming into play on Deep Space Nine, you have the Ferengi. Now, the Ferengi are a race of hyper-capitalists. Everything that Ferengi do is based on a profit motive. And this by itself makes them interesting villains or anti-heroes, whichever they happen to be. Quark, of course, a regular on Deep Space Nine, he's more of an anti-hero. Sometimes he manages to reluctantly do the right thing, but he's still got a heart that longs after gold, yearns after gold. So this in and of itself would have been an interesting idea to build an alien culture on. But somebody had the bright idea to make the Ferengi a misogynistic race and to imbue their culture with contempt for, again, that word, females. It's because the use of the word female apparently is a dead giveaway that you're dealing with a misogynistic race. Now, one of the most bothersome examples of the use of the Ferengi in Deep Space Nine, which I actually think is one of the more satisfying of the new Star Trek shows in terms of its female characters. It's got some very interesting, complex, active female leads who are given plenty to do, which was always the problem in Star Trek the original series and also in Star Trek The Next Generation. The women were there, they just very rarely did anything interesting. So Deep Space Nine represented a step forward in terms of female representation. Yet, there was one specific episode I can remember where Captain Sisko's son Jake and his best friend Nog, a Ferengi, went out on a double date. And Nog kept treating his date with contempt. And Jake was bothered by this. He was offended. And he basically called Nog out on his horrible treatment of his date. And when he talked to his father, Captain Sisko, about it, Captain Sisko said that it was just Nog acting like a Ferengi. And it's just part of his culture, and we have to respect his culture. And I wonder to this day, what if the Ferengi had been a racist race? What if there were racial divisions that were baked into the culture, and racism was the main flaw of the Ferengi? Or perhaps homophobia? Would Jake be told to get over it? Would he be told, okay, that's just their culture? I don't think so. I think that if it had been one of those problems, Captain Sisko would have agreed with Jake, this is wrong, and you were right to call him out. He needs to learn better. He needs to develop a stronger understanding. But when it's misogyny, apparently we're just supposed to go along to get along. So, a very bothersome episode. And I never really appreciated, I liked all the other aspects of Deep Space Nine, but every time a Ferengi-heavy episode came up, I was just, please, not another one, because I did not enjoy watching that misogyny. And the Sontarans and the Ferengi, in both cases, their social misogyny, their cultural misogyny, is played for laughs. We're meant to find it amusing. So that's one way that recent and current science fiction shows can inject misogyny into the plot. Then there's the second way, a way I call the Planet of the Taliban, meaning on board a ship in the quote good guy society, on board the good guy ship, you have your own little society there within the walls of the ship, self-contained. There are no gender roles, there are no gendered expectations, except when romance enters the picture, but even then, there's not an idea about what is good for women to do or what is good for men to do. Gender roles aren't that big a deal. But the ship always seems to find its way to a planet where a misogynistic culture prevails. Stargate had one of these episodes. And during the episode, I don't remember the title of the episode because I'll have to confess I'm not really a regular, and I never was really a regular Farscape. Sorry, not Farscape. That's my next example. I was never really a regular Stargate watcher, so I don't know the episode titles. But I've only seen clips of this one. But they land on a planet, the Stargate crew, they land on a planet where their sole female officer, Samantha Carter, has to walk behind the men, cover her face in traditional Sharia law style, it's kind of making, doing an XP of that kind of thing. Of course, by the end of the episode, the planet had changed its tune, and so even though the episode depicted this misogyny, there was not any question that we were supposed to be okay with it. But still, why did they have to go there? Why did they have to have that one episode where you had the female character having to play by misogynistic rules? Far worse to me was the Farscape episode. This one, I do remember the title of it. It was called Coup by Clam. And on one of the planets the crew of that show visited, you had a violently, repressively misogynistic society overthrown by rebellious straw feminists. And as it turned out, the feminist rebels were even worse than the patriarchal misogynists originally in charge. And it ended up with the male characters, the male regulars of the show, having to dress in drag to save the day. I'm not sorry I spoiled that episode. I hate that episode, and I will happily spoil it because it's crap. The show is great, but that one episode is crap. And so this is generally the way we keep seeing this kind of plot crop up in shows, again, science fiction shows that are otherwise pretty progressive in their representation. In fact, the only one of the spate of shows that came out in the 90s that did not do this, that did not have a specifically misogynistic race or a Planet of the Taliban episode, is Babylon 5. And that may be why Babylon 5 holds a special place in my heart. I appreciate that they just didn't go there. They never decided to play that card. Why does it bother me? Well, it's simple. The message seems to be that no matter how far out into the future you get, no matter how much time has passed, and no matter how many light years you get from 20th or 21st century Earth culture, somehow misogyny is going to follow you. There will always be somebody, some race of people, some planet's culture that is going to give you crap because you're a woman. And the idea that that's the one thing we can't get away from, it's a little sad. So my advice to shows, Doctor Who, the new Star Treks, I just have one thing to say. Do better.